very happy to be in Washington. I've been here for a week, and essentially my visit is to prepare a launching of a silence meditation for world peace on the 21st of September. And it will be really silent. It's no religious, no political. This is not to complain about any government or any position. This is just to put yourself to the service of peace. And if people need more information, we will leave some brochures behind, some statements of mine, and some press releases about the meaning of silence, the power of silence. Because I think it's important to link a little bit to some conceptual framework. What is behind this? This began in Portugal, where I live now, and it's spreading all around. After this, I go to Ecuador, so we're having a huge meditation for world peace in Quito. After that, we go to Venezuela. We'll have 5 cities doing meditation and so on. We will continue until it spreads as a very grassroots, self-empowered. There is no denomination, there is nothing. It's just people who actually have some degree of connection with their own inner peace. The movement basically is based on 2 or 3 premises. One, that the most solid foundation for world peace is inner peace. The rest is something to be discussed, and I talk about it a little bit in the context of spirituality. Essentially, we cannot buy peace in the supermarkets. Wealthy people are not more peaceful than less wealthy people. Rich countries are not in a better position than poor countries. So the issue here is what we need to do. And until or unless we have inner peace, you are in a blind date with peace. You don't know what it is. So, basically you are going around advocating, but advocacy for the sake of advocacy is not very powerful. And I just recently published a book on the 10 spiritual laws to heal the world. I want to make sure that she has 1 copy, because if there are not enough copies, the rest, you also can download the book, because I don't sell books, I give them away. I'm not in the business of spirituality, and so we do it from our own pockets and with volunteers like Claudia, who is our operational officer. I work at the World Bank for 29 years. I'm an economist by training. I have a PhD in economics and environmental economics. And so I spend a lot of my life in central banking and in banking and development, but always having a spiritual life of my own, and making sure that I didn't have a duality between my profession and who I was, which was not an easy thing to do. And I ended up at a very top, very senior position at the World Bank. My last position was to be the senior advisor to the managing directors and be the spokesman of the World Bank on human rights. Something very interesting, which I probably fell flat on my face after, the latest developments. Anyways, I'm very happy to be retired from the World Bank as of 2 years. I'm fully devoted to humanity. I live in Portugal, 1 hour north of Lisbon, in a small village of 200 people, where I really, really have the privilege of the fullness of silence. I created an institute just to launch me institutionally to the world, and that is the Zambuling World, the World Institute for Human Transformation. And this is the logo of the institute, so I'll give you in case you don't have one. This logo is a logo that is a result of spirituality, which I will speak in a minute. It's not a random logo, it's not about beauty, it's about transformation. So this logo has the 5 elements of life, 4 in the triangle and 1 in the circle. It has the yin and yang, male and female. It has the source of life, which is Kundalini. It's mentioned in many, many different names around the world. And it has the healing hand, because the institute idea is to heal people through their own personal transformation. The institute actually is about public policy. So there are 4 basic activities of the institute. One is spirituality and human rights, and the second one is spirituality and business. The third one is spirituality and public policy, and the last one is spirituality and personal coaching and transformation. So the Institute is really trying to bring a new framework to public policy, business, and human rights. Why public policy or spirituality and human rights? Because if you look at the Human Declaration, the Declaration of Human Rights, the Universal Declaration, and I'm entering now into the topic. The declaration is very short, there is only very few articles, and the declaration is all about values. It's not about rights, it's about values. And so you talk about equality, freedom, non-discrimination, and you go on. Those who know the Universal Declaration of Human Rights know this very well. Many people don't know, that have never read the Universal Declaration, although they advocate it. They're human rights activists, but they have no clue what the Declaration says. So I bought many thousand copies of the Declaration, and I will be on 18th Street and H, given this like one of those churches that go around with this, because many of my colleagues have no clue, they have no idea and they're highly educated, so I assume that it's not correlated to education. Many educated people have no idea what the declaration is. My view is that advocacy of values or advocacy of rights is good but very insufficient, because advocacy for the sake of advocacy doesn't do it. So the position of the Institute is that values are not words to be advocated. Values are a state of being. So these values need to be self-realized. And until and unless you don't self-realize the value of equality, you will never find women and men equal, even if you proclaim it. In the final hour, you will be, looking for position, because you don't know, you never self-realize equality. If you have never self-realized freedom, and this has nothing to do with religion, as you can see, my language is absolutely out of religion. I'm not a religious person, by the way. The focus is that if you have never self-realized freedom in yourself, there is no point for you to advocate freedom, because you don't know what you are advocating. And these processes are not automatic, these are not aspirins, these are not Tylenols, you really need to do the work and really work on it. It's also non-linear, in other words, you can really achieve them very quickly. It all depends on how you really do this. So I brought this humanistic view to the bank. So I was always involved in issues like the environment. Issues like the environment. And I ended up in my final part of my career with human rights. And I was completely committed to make the bank understand that human rights is an integral part of economics, and economics is an integral part of human rights. And so I did that as an economist. So I went to the theory of welfare economics and tried to bring changes in this, to demonstrate that this was not wacko economics, this was not fluffy economics, this was not something that, on the contrary. What is the problem today? And here is when spirituality is important, because you need to explain it well. We are living now in a very unique moment in human history. And this moment in human history, I call it collective existence. We are not anymore on individual existence. For the first time, I think we're more or less the same age, and many people probably the same age as mine, we have seen the population of the world to double twice in our lifetime. So there are 6.2 billion people now. This is not individual existence. We are destroying the ozone layer. This is not individual existence. We're having global warming, is not individual existence. We're having diseases that are being spread at very fast speed, even if people don't pass the information. This is not individual existence, this is collective existence. Human security is an issue of collective existence. War and peace is an issue of collective existence. Health, education, and so on, migration, you name it, today they're collective existence. And as of next year, for the first time in human history, there will be more people living in urban areas than rural areas. And 98% of the people that are growing in urban areas are in urban areas of developing countries where the human stress is the highest, and where the collective economics institutions today function with individualistic values And even organizations that are called international or worldwide or united or whatever you want to put as a name or last name of this organization, they are all individualistically based. They are not based on collective values. Because when it comes to the drawdown at the UN, the US decide on its own, Russia decide on its own, China decide on its own. So basically, we live a collective existence with individualistic values. This is the dilemma of today. Why we don't solve the war is because individualistic values are trying to generate some collective solution, and this is not possible. Number two, because people have not self-realized the value of peace. And what is the value of peace? Peace is the ability to become the other without losing your own identity. It's an ability. It's not something flying somewhere in there. It's an experience. You have to develop this ability. So if we're here in the peace movement, first we need to have peace inside, and to have peace means to develop an ability to become the other without losing your own identity. Let me start backwards. If you have no identity, don't enter into negotiations of peace. Don't enter into peace. Don't advocate peace, because your identity is crucial. While I was told when I was young, my identity was not relevant. So naturally, you couldn't make any contribution. And then if you go back into the sentence, then, you need to become the other. So you need to be a Jew or a Muslim if you're going to do this. But without losing your identity. It's becoming, someone. If you want to fight poverty, you need to become poor without necessarily being poor. I am not against the rich. Fantastic. Bill Gates, great. No problem. But you need to have that ability if you want to be compassionate. This is not an issue of giving. Giving is giving. It's not being compassionate. Compassionate is to become the other without losing your own identity. It's not a passive thing. People say, peace, inner peace is the solid foundation of world peace. This is sit down and meditate all day long. It's the most active thing you can do in your life. And if you're not active in becoming peace, being passive has nothing to do with peace. Passivity is not peace. Because in passivity, you are indifferent to becoming the other. That's the big difference between being passive and being peaceful. Getting yourself into this mode that rich countries are at peace, poor countries are at war, rich people are at peace, poor people are at war. This is totally nonsense. But this is the second view. We're going to give Egypt so many $1 billion a year, they become rich, so they are not at war. I can tell you one thing. You give Palestine back to Palestinians today, they cannot exercise their freedom. They are wounded. 85% of the children in Palestine are clinically, by WHO, clinically evaluated as depressed kids. The third way to deal with peace is not war, is not economics, although I'm not saying that politics is not important and economics is not important. That's not my conclusion. Obviously, if you have material means, probably you have better chance to do other things and exercise your freedom when you have it. Is to look at who is reconstructing the society from within the heart. And this is not a touchy-feely stuff. And this is where spirituality comes from. Because if you accept my definition of spirituality, then you need to understand the mission of that nation in the world. If you don't understand the mission of that nation, don't get there to mess around with those peoples. But if you know their mission, your obligation is to create the institutional, the political, the spiritual spaces for them to become who they have to become. That's peace. That's the road to peace. This is not $80 million. And that means spiritual values, solidarity, love, compassion, equality, fraternity, caring, sharing. That's spirituality. Why? Because these values are mantras to remember to remember. If I love him and he feels love, his cosmic memory will make him to remember and not to be worried about if I hate him, his mind will be on this machine gun that I mentioned before. If I compete with him, his mind would be with this machine gun. I better focus on his anger, his competition, his accumulation, his trade, his consumption. That's why we are not going back to peace. So spirituality and peace is not a choice, it's fundamental. It's not something that you need to justify. The problem is language. And you need to find language that is capable to say, look, this is what we mean. And I would suggest, to end my presentation so you can ask me questions, is that move away from the word spirituality, because people are not at the level of vibration to understand it. The first step, you need to self-realize peace. Otherwise, you have no authority in the era of Aquarius to convocate or to advocate peace. You see, the era of Pisces, which is finishing now, it was the era of knowledge. So I know, so I act. So we created laboratories, universities, diplomas. If you have a master's degree, you're paid more than a bachelor's degree. You have a doctorate degree, So society creates empowerment behind knowledge. The era of Aquarius has a different rule. So I self-realize, so I act. So I self-realize, so I act. That's why the definition, an ability to become the other, so I self-realize the other, so I act, so I use my identity. So this is the rule of Aquarius. So it's not that knowledge is not important. The point is that without being in the highway of the rule of this era, what are you talking about peace? You have not self-realized peace. Many of the negotiators in the Middle East are angry. I talked to two of them. They're angry. How can they reach peace? They're very angry. So it's not capitalism. I think a war against capitalism is a waste of time. We don't need more wars. We need to create human consciousness. I want to create the condition for her to be an enlightened person. And when she's enlightened, she will be happy. She will know exactly what to do. She will not be with this anxiety to become something. She will not be bombarded by advertising. She will know what to do. So please don't enter into this debate, because it's a wasted debate. I've been in this debate for ages. I was in the revolution in Chile. I was in the streets, about capitalism and so on. And then I realized I don't want to kill anyone. You have to. No, I don't want to. So I got out. But this debate about capitalism and socialism, what is the debate if you're killing people left and right? Yes, sir.
What would an enlightened government look like?
I have thought about it. Because at one time I wanted to be president of Chile, and I have not relinquished that option yet. And somebody said, how are you going to do it? I said, I will have meditators or people in prayer 24 hours in the palace, in the four corners of the palace. First measure. Second measure, I will announce what are the best paid people in my government. I will not hide it. Number one, the oldest people, the retirees. Secondly, the teachers. Why? Because human capital is essential for enlightenment. But in paying more, I will focus my government on the quality of development, not on the quantity of development.